Welcome to session 7 on gas market dynamics. I alluded to the way in which gas demand in Europe has fallen, and I noted that we had reference to the contraction of electricity demand last year. And of course, what we have been seeing is demand destruction amongst industry. So it's not simply a question of gas demand and supply. We may have a position in which the supply is there, but there is much less take-up than might have been expected, because the recovery will not only be necessarily slower, but in a rather more different form than previously expected. In other words, what I'm saying is, we are not in a conventional decline and recovery mode. So we have this very strange gas market in Europe, exacerbated by the peculiarity that at the very moment when there is the theoretical increased availability of LNG, suddenly the US government states, as it did in January, that there's going to be a pause in licensing new LNG developments. And we don't know how long that will last. Could be just a matter of a few more weeks or months. Could be much longer. What we do know is that it creates an element of uncertainty, paradoxically at a time when we still seem to be learning how to do without nearly as much pipeline gas from Russia as before, but curiously, buying more Russian LNG than before. So with this set of strange paradoxes, we'll move to our speaker panel. And I understand that Mr. Kostis Divnias, the CEO of Gas Trade Greece, is online and will be speaking first, if that's all right. Now, can I confirm that Mr. Sivnias is online? Yes, he is. Excellent. So, Mr. Sivnias, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Allow me to say hello to your fellows in the panel, Charles, Milan, and Gerasimus. I understand also Theodora and Christina are online. So a warm good afternoon to all of you. It is a paradox, but on the other hand, I think it is a paradox it's a short-living paradox. I think once we get to the US election, regardless of the outcome of the elections, that will be lifted. What we've seen so far is that any new LNG capacity that has been brought to market or has been auctioned, such, for example, as the Qatari new capacity, has been fully absorbed. So, and for long term. So I think the future of LNG and the growth of LNG as an alternative, obviously, to gas pipe supply will continue to rise. Now, I think it's quite important to focus in the south, eastern, and central Europe, where we know it's an area quite sensitive to pipeline gas, quite sensitive to Russian gas, and also quite sensitive to what would happen in the future with Russian gas. We know that by the end of the year, the transiting of gas through Ukraine, Russian gas through Ukraine, will end. That may cause some significant concerns or issues in some markets in Central Europe, not so much in Southeastern Europe, in the sense that most of the Russian gas is coming through Turkey. But I think looking forward, there's one element in this region to which I would like to focus, and this is really around the vertical corridor initiative. And I think we have done a lot of work with our colleagues in this vertical corridor, which starts from Greece. If we look from south to north, then moves north to Bulgaria, further to Romania, then kind of splits west towards Hungary and Slovakia, and northeast towards Moldova and Ukraine. We have expanded the corridor and the members of the corridor to include Slovakia on the west and Moldova and Ukraine. I think this is really a realistic and a strategic and commercial initiative, which obviously gained, it's not a new one, but it gained a lot of visibility and priority, of course, following the crisis and the invasion of Russia to Ukraine. So we know that this is a region where traditionally dependent very much has been on Russian gas. And I think the absence of Russian gas could create a gap which could be in the range of between 20 and 30 BCM per year, in particular if we include Ukraine. And I'm sure that we're all aware that we learned and we read about at least this. I'm not sure to which level it's a final agreement or but it's definitely something which is going on. This agreement between DTEC of Ukraine and Venture Global of the US with regards to around a 2 million ton per year procurement of US LNG starting in a couple of years. So that's already something which is quite interesting in the region, whether it realizes in full or not, but it gives a direction. So I think it's quite an opportunity for this region, in particular, we think about for Greece to be able to become the strategic gateway of gas and in particular of LNG towards the region and towards the parts of Moldova and Ukraine. So that's, I think, the vertical corridor can offer these opportunities and this optionality. Now, obviously, we need to speed up in investing in some key projects that will enable this flow of gas and in particular this flow of LNG from Greece to the north. So we definitely needed to focus on increasing the export capacity of Greece towards Bulgaria. And I think one easy quick win there would be the upgrade of IGB from 3.3 BCM per year, which is now to around 5. Also increase on the export capacity from Siderokastro to Koulata, so from Greece, from the old, if you want, route, and that can be increased by another BCM and a half, quite of short term. Also, the Bulgarian side has already commenced the work on increasing the interconnectivity with Romania through the the Trans-Balkan on a reverse mode from practically doubling from 5 to 10 BCM. So that will give a realistic way and a realistic route to get LNG from the south, from Greece, from both terminals, Revitus and Alexandroupolis, all the way to the north and all the way to Ukraine. And this is a reality. This is something that should be available in the next couple of years. Now, I would say before I gives you some words on the Alexandroupolis terminal, to which, as you know, have been we were developing for the last several years. In fact, since 2010, I need to say that one issue that the vertical corridor needs to take into account is the tariffs pancaking. So that means basically to make the root product from Greece to Moldova and to Ukraine competitive against, let's say, alternatives such as pipeline Russian gas. That is something that, from a commercial point of view, we need to focus on. Now, I think when we look at the Alexandroupolis terminal and the vertical gas corridor, it's a win-win situation here, because Alexandroupolis offers to the corridor a new entry with multiple supply optionality and adds materially to the liquidity of the subject markets. We are adding about 175 gigawatt hours per day, which is around 5.5 BCM entry capacity and potential liquidity. And we work in complementarity with most of the regional projects, such as regional interconnectors, such as IGB, such as IBS to Serbia, such as the interconnections with Romania, be it the small interconnection or be it the Trans-Balkan. So we also support the commercial viability. In fact, you must have read that some volumes from Alexandroupolis at the commissioning phase, of course, have reached Moldova. So it's feasible and can be done. Also, the vertical corridor is an enabler for the Alexandroupolis project, as it improves the access of the project to the markets and by removing the congestion and bottlenecks. So I think when we look at the access to the southeastern European markets through the terminal and through the vertical corridors, the vertical gas corridor, these go hand by hand. Just to give you a quick update also on the Alexandroupolis terminal, it is fully ready. We are looking at completing the commissioning of the terminal. We will have a very clear view in the next couple of weeks of the exact commercial operation date, but the flows have been realized during commissioning. So this has been my intro, if you want.
Thank you very much indeed. Dr. Sivnias, in particular, it's always good to know that Alexandroupolis is coming online on time. Our next speaker is Dr. Charles Elenas, who has been involved both directly and as an analyst in East Mediterranean energy at a very, very great depth for many years. So Charles, over to you.
Thank you, John. in a way, I'm going to go and talk about and give an answer to what Chris was asked before lunch, which is the impact of the Euro elections on the geopolitics of energy and gas in Europe and the region. So the headline in the Financial Times following the June elections in Europe was Europe's Green Backlash. Right-wing advances in European Parliament elections will lessen climate ambitions. Indeed, the gains of the far right in the European Parliament were partly mirrored by falls for green parties throughout Europe. The contrast was much stronger in France and Germany. In addition, Italy and the Netherlands are now led by right-wing governments, as probably will Austria in the near future. The vote for Green parties collapsed, not only in the European Parliament elections, but also in Germany, France and Italy, and in most of Europe. The French Greens barely made it over the 5% threshold, and in Germany, the party's vote was almost halved. It is not that climate change is not considered to be a problem, but that European voters have reacted to the impact of green policies on high energy costs and on their wallets and lifestyles. Economic insecurity is at the forefront of their minds. Policymakers throughout the European Union will have to pay closer attention to consumers. Otherwise, the shift to the right will continue. A less friendly European Parliament and a weakened Franco-German leadership will make it harder for the European Commission to advance its green agenda. It will also have profound implications on the power balance between the EU countries in Brussels and with the European Council. Another headline was kiss goodbye to the European Green Deal. Even though that is unlikely to happen, it will become harder to get new green legislation approved, and policies still under consideration may be weakened. Even the Greens have conceded that, especially as the European Commission's focus shifts to defense. With Giorgia Meloni in Italy, Marine Le Pen in France, and Geert Wilders in the Netherlands gaining strength, they will continue to use their growing influence to foment revolt against new green policies. An example is the impending legislation for a 90% reduction on greenhouse gas emissions by 2040. If approved, it will have a direct impact on everyday lives. It is expected to face stiff resistance. It will affect housing and transport. It may now be a step too far. I mean, you can see from there that the current trends, the green band, are way above that 90% limit. Even if we try to impose it, it may be difficult to achieve it. Certainly, the 2030 target for cutting emissions in Europe will not be achieved. As an indication of the EU state policies to come, following the shift to the right in Italy, Giorgia Meloni put brakes on solar energy rollout on farmland. She says photovoltaics are threatening the nation's food security. Meloni described this as a pragmatic measure that corrects the ideological eco-follies of which Italy and its farmers have been the victims. The new Netherlands government is moving in a similar direction. It also plans to promote drilling for offshore gas. Undoubtedly, climate change geopolitics is shifting. Continuing with business as usual without addressing the cost impact of green policies is no longer possible and will not overcome problems. Climate politics needs to be reconnected with the needs of society. Central to this is the future of the Green Deal and the EU policies towards industrial competitiveness and energy security, including natural gas. So in 2023, the Green Deal came under sustained attack and the result of the European Parliament elections means that it will continue to be under pressure. I don't want to dwell very much on the Green Deal, but I want to move on to the issues about natural gas. Energy transition is not happening as quickly as the Green Deal and others suggest. As economies continue to expand, global energy demand carries on increasing fast. But even as renewables increase at a fast rate, they do not get the job done. Their intermittent nature needs to be balanced by firm power. Available low carbon firm power, such as nuclear, has its own limitations and it's not at the required scale, and green hydrogen has a long way to go before it becomes affordable. Long-term energy storage is still woefully limited. The world still needs to rely on natural gas for firm, dispatchable power at the required scale, in preference to coal. Globally, coal and oil demand will decline eventually, but natural gas demand is expected to increase by over a third by 2050. Without a step change in policy and technological progress, natural gas will continue to play a substantial role in balancing intermittent renewables and meeting the expected growth in global energy demand, driven by population growth, standard of living improvements, by a massive growth in AI and data centers. Nobody probably has followed that, but the estimates, for example, of the United States is that by 2030, 25% of all energy or electrical energy in the United States will be absorbed by data centers. It's huge. And then there is also the impact of climate change on high temperatures and the need for cooling in the summer. As the International Energy Week conference in February in London, at that conference, panelists agreed that natural gas will continue being important during energy transition. They also pointed to increasing signs that the EU countries are actually departing from the Green Deal. Germany approved plans in February to finance one of Europe's biggest expansions in gas-fired power plants. It plans to proceed soon with four short-term tenders for up to 10 gigawatts, involving up to 20 new gas power plants. In addition, in a departure from the REPowerEU and the Green Deal, since last year, Germany has been signing long-term LNG contracts, well in excess of 10 years, sometimes up to 15 years. This change of direction is already happening with Germany leading the way with a revived commitment to natural gas. Germany has already restored its gas imports to pre-Ukraine invasion levels by replacing Russian gas by others, mostly LNG. In addition, Europe is now trying to keep a key Russian-Ukraine gas pipeline flowing, despite the war. Parts of Europe are worried about the end of the supply deal. In March, the Gas Exporting Countries Forum released its Global Output 2050 report with emphasis on natural gas for sustainable development. It forecasts that natural gas demand will rise by 34% by 2050, led by Asia Pacific. In Southeast Asia, gas expansion plans could lead to a doubling of gas-fired power capacity and an 80% increase in LNG import capacity. The forum also forecasts that even though European gas demand could decline by, sorry for that, by 35% over the same period, Europe will still need 300 BCM by 2050, dominated by LNG imports. Declining demand limits Europe's needs for new gas sources, and that obviously impacts the region. The aspirations of our region, of the East Med, to export gas to Europe is not supported by that. However, there are markets in Asia. and that means export by LNG. Low gas prices, now down to almost pre-crisis levels, are here to stay for the longer term, making gas more affordable. Other than the IEA that bases its forecasts on predetermined scenarios, defines an end goal and tries to get to it rather than following trends, natural gas is forecast to remain an important part of global and European primary energy to 2050. And I spoke this morning about the implications of that on the EastMed. Thank you.
Charles, thank you very much for a very, very good assessment and outline of the current European gas situation. Our next speaker is online, and that is Ms. Theodora Georgieva, the Executive Officer and Board Member of ICGB, the Interconnector Gas Bulgaria, Greece, Bulgaria. Yes, and she's here. It's very good to see you, Ms. Georgieva, and the floor is yours. Have you got your sound on? Can you is your microphone muted?
Okay, so it's working now?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's working now. It's fine. Thank you.
1 second, just to once again to try to share the presentation and starting. One second. I think that now I managed.
Yes, we can see the presentation.
Thank you very much. So first, thank you very much. I would like to express my gratitude to Mr. Stamboulis for the kind invitation, which appreciate a lot, which is giving me and my colleague who is also there to update you about the development of IGB and also this dynamic situation that is happening now on the gas market, infrastructure, vertical gas corridor. Also happy to have not for the first time Mr. John Roberts, and I'm happy to let's say to collaborate together and to be part of this prestigious panel. So talking about IGB, IGB pipeline is directly, as you know, is directly connected with Trans-Adriatic pipeline, making also Bulgaria part of the Southern Gas Corridor. The pipeline also strengthens Greece's role in the region and plays essential well with the country's strategy of developing LNG terminals. Interconnector supplies over more than 50% of Bulgaria's internal consumption needs for the winter months, ensuring energy diversification and energy security. During the warm period, so the percentage is even higher because we are talking about 1 BCM coming from Azerbaijan, and which represents more than 1/3 of the consumption of Bulgaria, but even higher during the summer period. On the top of it, IGB is ensuring one of the best prices through this Azerbaijani gas, which is a kind of really very good for our consumers, industry, and one. Pipeline also enables diversified deliveries from the Caspian region, ensuring non-Russian natural gas, which can reach to the regional market. Also, Greece-Bulgaria interconnection also has excellent synergy with the plant and existing LNG terminals in the region, especially the soon-to-launch FSRU in Sidropolis. Upon the commissioning, ICGB expects increased interest in the route for deliveries for South and Eastern Europe region. ICGB is already marketing with, let's say, so you can see here that this row is, we are connected both with Trans-Adriatic pipeline and also DESFA. As soon as we do have a good indications, we hope as of 1st of July, we may have functioning on the IP DESFA as well. And very much welcome the soon start of operation of FSRU Alexandroupolis, where we do have huge synergy, not only because of being logistically close, but because of the fact that this terminal is mainly for export purposes. And also, I mean, as you know, it is this ICGB is a game changer, not because we are ensuring gas. Let's say for Bulgaria, we are very much dependent, almost 100% by Russian gas. And also from 2022, we have the gas from Russian has been stopped. And let's say the significance of how ICGB has been felt even much more higher at that point. What was good to be mentioned is the vertical gas corridor, which has been mentioned also by Kostis, but it's worth mentioning that we are originally the whole corridor is consisting of the countries and operators of DESPA, Transgas, and Hungarian operator. Then there was a suggestion also Slovakian one to be added. FSC Alexandroupolis is part of the corridor also. But what we would like to say is that ICGB was the driver to include also Ukraine and Moldovan one. It is not by chance, and we are happy to announce that in 2022 and 2023, the winter, through IGB, an immense part of gas towards Moldova has passed through Trans-Balkan gas pipeline, which is crucial, especially driven the fact that at that time there was, I mean, under the scenario that Russia invasion in Ukraine. So we helped and facilitated very much. We are the first one which kind of boosted the reverse mode of Trans-Balkan pipeline through the synergy of Southern Gas Corridor. So with vertical gas corridor, what we are really working very closely with the operators, and ICGB suggested to Ukraine TSO to be also included, and it has been well supported by all operators, and in Athens in January they are already there. But it is not only an initiative which is a kind of okay, this is a gas corridor. It is initiatives with lots of meetings, a big job, lots of coordination, especially in terms of right now incremental process that we are running together, and we are on almost monthly meetings. And alignment, which is a kind of showing that it is not only initiative on paper, but it's initiative in practice. Especially talking about right now, by the end of this year, we all know that the transmission from Russia through Ukraine is going to be stopped, and it is going to impact on, let's say, markets like Austria, Slovakia, and not only. So from this perspective, I think that the importance of vertical gas corridor is even higher. And we would like to, let's say, that we are boosting and we are very much committed as ICGB, but also neighboring TSO for the expansion project. And this is a commitment which is happening to happen as soon as possible. We did have a non-binding phase, which is very promising from last year. And now we are just a couple of days before the binding phase, which is starting at the beginning of July. What we would like to say is that given the market that has been expressed, I think, by previous speaker, we are not quite sure that, let's say, binding phase will be so promising than the non-binding one. And in these directions, what we are doing right now is a kind of also exploring different scenarios for financing in order to assure not to be the bottleneck for the vertical corridor. And let's say, unfortunately, European Union is not supporting any more gas infrastructure, which is increasing the, let's say, the problem. So from this perspective, we are searching for different sources. And there are some good indication from USAID, a fund from USA. So these are something that we rely on that will be soon materialized in order to, let's say, to be really, to do our expansion on time. And this fund is going to support also the neighboring operators, because without this overcoming these bottlenecks, we're talking about few infrastructures like expanding Sidero-Castro, some infrastructure from Bulgaria, which is going, in fact, from to ensure gas from 5 to 10 BCM to flow from Greece to Ukraine. So these are the targets shortly for the these vertical short-term targets for the vertical corridor, which consist of not more than 800 million euro. But unfortunately, as I told, we are right now struggling with financing in order not to only to rely on market. especially given what is going on right now on Turkish market with excessive Russian gas, which are making dumping to LNG. It has been mentioned that also there is lots of LNG also from Russia. So independently from what has happened from 2022 and the fact that Europe is already at the level of 40% now coming from LNG versus previously a pipeline, almost fully. So we may say that I mean this trend is going to go up, but the question here is it's a kind of I think that there was Mr. Roberts has mentioned a kind of paradox that on one side we are predominantly boosting LNG and the one which is diversified given the geopolitical environment and the fact that Russia is using gas as a geopolitical tool. And on the other hand, we do have also LNG from Russian gas. So it definitely, independently from the important role from vertical gas corridor, it definitely plays a huge role. So I would like once again to reiterate that also our opinion is that gas is going to stay as an important transitional fuel and is going to play a substantial role. So it would be good to be well understood by everybody, because it is not because we are transmitting gas, it is because renewables alone, let's say based on the Green Deal and the targets, should be very much goes together with LNG, which is crucial for the energy mix and balancing purposes. And so from this perspective, and not only from this, but also given the fact that there are several LNG terminals which has been opened by USA and not only, so we all know, based on experience from our from IGB, we all know that these terminals do have this at least 20 years lifetime. So from this perspective, we cannot expect the gas just to disappear. And it also let's be also more pragmatic and much more to think for the transition from coal to gas, to respect Green Deal, but not exactly the indicators that and the extreme targets that was given. So that's a kind of I mean something which is a kind of offline, but good to be mentioned because it plays a role for the whole for European market, for the let's say given the situation that we are right now, also for the vertical gas corridor, which we are very much committed, but also all these dynamics are playing a huge role. So for IGB, I don't know, shortly I'll go through because I think that it is well known, but it's, let's say this is the shareholder structure, which we do have 50% ownership shareholder from Bulgarian Energy Holding, represented by Ministry of Energy of Bulgaria, and the other 50% from Poseidon, consisting of DEPA. Behind DEPA, we do have Greek government, and also Edison. We do have, let's say, very much interrelated with the EDF's ownership as well. So from this a kind of let's say complex infrastructure helps a lot during the way in order this project to happen, because we are having the support of both Bulgarian government and Greek government, and this plays a role, although with smaller steps we reach to the, let's say, to the end that we are willing, and given especially the geopolitical complexity helps a lot. Yes, also what took a lot because is the financial structure to make it as competitive as possible. So you may see here that we do have we are proud to say that we are keeping the capex that we started at the level of 253 million euro until the let's say it was the plan, and that's how we finished without some excess. We do have in order to make competitive, we do have 45 million euro EPR grant. On the top of this, it took out. We have additional grants from ESIF funds because we are exempted the project, and you are not able to utilize the usual SEF mechanism, and also huge loan which plays a role because this loan is making the structure really competitive one from EIB through BEH with very good interest rate, and by this 2018 we are having really a very good support by European Union, because we are we are having the support of a clearance from the state aid approval, EU exemption. So this was a kind of keyword
Ms.
2018 for this
Georgieva,
project.
can you draw your remarks to a close? Because
Okay.
we're running out of time.
Yes, okay.
And
I'll
we
skip
we've got
and
the other
go to the
speakers
last
too.
one. Okay. So this, I think I have mentioned, it was 1st of October, quite important event where it's showing the importance of this 5GB. So incremental capacity, I said already that it is of crucial importance, and then expansion project also very much we are willing to make scenarios B in order this to happen. Potential of hydrogen, we are right now commitment is at the level of 2%. We are right now running some survey in order to see how competitive we are, let's say, to transit some percentage of blended hydrogen with gas. And so this is the last. So this is the last slide, which is once again outlining the significant role of power infrastructure versus both vertical corridor and not only. And we would like to say that by now we have transferred to 2 billion cubic meter gas. So by this, what I would like to say that we are committed for expansion and we are ready for let's say our next steps, and also to answer to some questions if there are any.
Thank you very much indeed, because it is important to understand just how the IGB works in terms of contributing to the diversification of supply to countries as far away as Slovakia. It all goes into the fact that we need to consider the infrastructure and what can be done in practice, both to expand and to make the best use of the existing infrastructure. So thank you very much indeed. It is very much appreciated. Now,
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Milan Zdravkovic of Serbia Gas. So I'm just hoping he's going to forgive me for mangling his name. Thank you, Milan.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everybody. Of course, it's always needed to repeat the gratitude to Mr. Kostis having us here, because I really honestly believe that this is the rare opportunity where we can speak based on facts, experience, and knowledge. In that sense, on the very beginning, I would like to make a comment. It's a pity, especially listening my previous speakers about some facts that are presented. I'm afraid we are in luck and deposit with the policymakers who needs to listen this and to take it into account. Why? I will try to be time efficient as much as I can. Generally, I have two messages that I would like to share with you. In the scope of the topic of this session, gas market dynamics, I would like to share with you the outlook, or something which we, from Serbia perspective, are doing, implementing, and as well seeing and commenting, which is not only from the aspect of interest of Serbia, but I will give my freedom to myself and to speak in front of the countries on the Western Balkans which are not the members of the European Union. Why? This map you all know, which unfortunately till now and still has the major characteristic, the lack of gas infrastructure. So the entire legislation of the European Commission was based, I need to remind you, on the very beginning of 2000s, where the existing infrastructure needs to played and exercised on the more liberal way to enable bigger and greater satisfaction for the customers. What do we have here? I will escape the general comments, and this may be also a kind of corner kick to John for the further discussion that I'm looking for, is we have a paradox of the acting of the policy makers. Why? according as the Brussels has this procedure of the so-called projects of common interest, which are recognized and then verified, and through that supported for the financial support of the infrastructure. The same thing has the Energy Community Society or Secretariat as a leader of it. So the situation we have, because of the recent regulation, which says no more new projects if are not going to be accepted if they are only gas labeled, but now we are going to the other end of the line and we are saying no gas at all, but only 100% hydrogen. The result of this decision is, on my personal opinion, completely absurd, that we have that the decision of the Energy Community Secretariat, I'm very sorry that Mr. Rakovsky is not present today here, is that not for Serbia, because one of the projects nominated was North Macedonia, Serbia, which is in full compliance with the integration of the southern corridor, not only to the Balkan countries, but further to in the sense of south to north, but also the other nominated projects were rejected. So the result is 0 projects are recognized as a potential gas projects for the energy community. Having in mind distinguished previous speakers' comments analyzed on the facts, which says that natural gas definitely is going to be needed in a not only close future, but in the middle future as a transition support to desired energy goals, this whole situation makes it completely ridiculous. So this is definitely something which we strongly invite, especially energy community, to deal with. The second message that I would like to share with you is the project that, as we are seeing, and not only us, is a complementary project which is completely in alliance and compliant with the vertical corridor. But in the same time, because we have a fact that recently the new interconnector Bulgaria-Serbia is put into operation, we have the initial phase of implementation of the interconnector North Macedonia-Serbia. So actually we have the situation that we are integrated the sources of Southern Corridor into the line and into the concept to bring the needed gas volumes to the north. In the present situation, the present gas pipeline system, high pressure pipeline system in Serbia, I must remark this, is the old one. It's more than 40 years old, and it was designed when it was constructed on the opposite philosophy, in a sense that the only route to supply was in that time only from Hungary to Serbia and nothing else. Now we have a complete different scenario, which actually is not only inviting and promoting, but putting into the reality the 180 degrees change scenario where we're expecting to have a significant flows from south to north. So for more details, I will be, of course, available about this pipeline, and this is something which is seriously treated. It's already has been performed a pre-feasibility study. We are speaking with the representatives of European delegation in Serbia as well, and also with the partners, not only from Hungary, but as well with our other friends. I must use the opportunity to thank, in recent time, we have a really good cooperation with the companies in Greece, and therefore we recognize this as a potential not only interest but also the opportunity to make the even stronger integration and penetration of the potential sources from Southern Corridor, not only for the region of Balkans but further to the Baumgarten as one of the major spots in Europe regarding the gas hub. we do respect the vertical corridor. When I was preparing the presentation, I didn't expect that the vertical corridor will be already presented as much as it is, but of course we understand it. From the point of view of us, it's generally, yes, it is a complex project, as it said, and it has its special, let me say this way, addressed goals. Of course, one of them is, of course, to secure a secure supply to end users located in Ukraine and Moldova. So, to cut the long story short, what actually we are trying to promote through this project is the integration of this vertical corridor and this pipeline concept, which is named internally pipeline south to north in Serbia, which can jointly be treated as a really full, efficient tool to integrate the capacities from the southern corridor to Europe. So these are the basic messages. I expect John to put the temperature higher lately. And by the way, when I spoke, and I must admit that I am frustrated because of this approach from energy community, treating the gas projects. This, I'm not sure if it's still expectation or some other proper word should be used for this, but let me remind you, this morning there were panels regarding the renewables. I didn't hear so much words about the hydrogen. And now, from the policy aspect, you are asking and requiring for the TSOs to deal with the pipelines which needs to be 100% hydrogen ready and operational. I'm not sure that it's sustainable. I'm afraid that most of us lose the sense and meaning what sustainability means. Thank you.
Milan, thank you very much indeed. I can at least assure you we've got a panel on renewables coming up. But I think one of the things that you've brought home to us, particularly in the context of the vertical corridor, is the centrality of Serbia, not just geographically, but the potential it can play in the commercial exchange of gas. So thank you very much indeed. So now we have, I believe, Mr. Gökhan Yardim. Is Gökhan online from Turkey at the moment?
I'm online. I'm
Good,
ready for my
good.
presentation.
Gökhan, it's very good to see you. And
Me too,
I'll
thank
hand
you.
the floor over to you straight away.
Thank you, John. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Kostis Stambolis for inviting me. As we all know that Turkey is the biggest energy consumption in the region. That's why in my presentation I will start the energy situation of the Turkey first. Now we know that the Turkey is highly dependent on fossil fuels and import. So according to the World Energy Statistics published today, Turkey has surpassed the UK and become the third largest energy consumer in Europe, Germany, France, and Turkey. And third in natural gas, sixth in oil, and third in electricity. So if we look at the share of natural gas in the primary energy, until 2015 it was over 30%. The highest value was 32.5% in 2014, but in recent years this rate has fallen to 25-27% due to the increase in the share of renewable energy. And the plan is targeted this share to be reduced to 22% in 2035. In recent years, we all know that the Turkey's natural gas infrastructure has been strengthened with major investments made by BOTAŞ and the private sector. The capacities of transmission, distribution, and storage facilities have been increased. 5 LNG terminals have been constructed and are in operation for the storage, gasification, and transportation of LNG purchased under long-term contracts, as well as LNG purchased on the spot market. And 6.6 BCM total capacity of natural gas, 2 underground storages are in operation. Pipeline connections with most of the neighboring countries are ready. By the end of last year, gas consumption was provided to 757 districts, 89 towns in total, including all 81 provincial centers. Turkey's natural gas market is the 5th largest natural gas market in Europe, but now today we learned that it is the 3rd biggest market, and 20 million subscribers, and annual consumption is around 50 billion cubic meters. While the sectoral breakdown is calculated as a percentage, residential consumption is 34%, electricity generation 27%, industrial consumption is 25, almost 25%. Gas consumption in the residential and commercial sector continues to increase. This brings the spot LNG import more and more important. The industrial sector, we see a decline due to the energy savings, solar power generation, and economic reasons. So, before liberalization, we all use the long-term contracts. However, both the liberalization of the market and the increase in seasonal consumption, as I said, residential and commercial buildings, have made seasonal imports more important. As a result of the shale gas revolution in the United States, and LNG exports become new and more economic, so Turkey started to import US LNG after 2016, and also we took the advantage of the spot LNG prices, except during the Russian-Ukraine war. In order to benefit from these developments and advantages to increase the energy security in Turkey, the amount of natural gas supplied from different sources is increasing every year in our country. We see that long-term contracts of 21 billion cubic meters with Russian Federation and 10 billion cubic meters with Iran, which will expire in the next 2 years. The 1.4 billion cubic meters LNG purchase agreement with Oman, which will come in force next year, and 3.45 billion cubic meters of LNG cooperation agreement signed with ExxonMobil, and the extension agreement with Azerbaijan to 2030, which will expire at the end of this year, are important in terms of ensuring energy security and diversification. And we see some of the, today we learned that the EU approves its first ever sanctions on Russian LNG. Measures will, 1, reloading Russian LNG in EU for delivery to third countries, prohibits investment in a new Russian LNG. But there is no direct ban on importing Russian LNG. But if you look at the last year's Turkey's import figures, we'll see France and Belgium. France is almost more than 600 million cubic meters we imported from France. There is no liquefaction plant in France, and Belgium is more than 100 millions. So we see that if this sanction was ratified, because it may change during the process, so the EU countries will not reload this LNG, but some of the people are saying that this will increase the Russian LNG imports in Europe. But we'll see. In addition to the significant increase in production volumes, is observed in 2033 with the introduction of the Black Sea gas into the system. In September 2023, with the start of the natural gas production on Sakarya field, the share of production in total supply started to increase, and it is seen that this increase will continue in the gas to be produced from the field. So if we are coming to the gas exports and the neighboring countries' relations, we'll see that the BOTAŞ signed some gas export agreements with Bulgaria, Hungary, Romania, and Moldova. And these are the last year's the gas exports. Some of the Azerbaijani gas was exported to Greece in 2007, and the Turkey-Greece pipeline was built and natural gas delivered through this pipeline for 15 years. There is still unused spare capacity on the Turkish side of this pipeline. Within the scope of Azerbaijan Shah Deniz 2 project, all kinds of legal and administrative financial assistance was provided for the construction of the TANAP pipeline, and necessary incentives were given to investor companies. After the commissioning of the Turkish Stream pipeline with Russia, free capacity was created in the Balkan line over Bulgaria for natural gas to Turkey. And agreements have been made, as I told you, to send natural gas to Bulgaria and other Balkan countries using the Turkish LNG terminals. Some Balkan countries also receive natural gas in small countries through small-scale LNG and contribute their energy securities. As we all know, there are some studies on expanding the capacity of TANAP pipeline, but we also followed from the press that Azerbaijan is waiting for the purchase and sale agreements regarding the major investments to be made on the project. I think it is not yet clear what kind of stance the European Union has taken or will take on this issue. It is not just about finding the gas. Investment must be returned at the appropriate time. Another issue discussed is the transportation of Turkmenistan's natural gas to Europe, as well as Azerbaijan's. However, some problems that need to be solved in this regard still remain valid. And I would like to come to your question, John, what you mentioned for the U.S. LNG pause, President Biden's pause to the new U.S. LNG projects. I think this will be changed after the election. Most probable Biden will lose the election and Trump will be in favor of the new projects. And also, if U.S. U.S. LNG projects not be done, this means that we need more gas from Russia, which this is not for the all EU's and American policies. And also, we learned that the 6 European countries are working on the extension of the existing Ukrainian transit agreements. Russia has not made any comments. Of course, the extension of these agreements will be in favor of Ukraine because Ukraine will make money. But we don't know whether Russia will be in favor of Ukrainians making money or not. And they didn't make any comment. These works, the extension works and extension contradict the gas center that Putin wants to establish in Turkey. So this is all I want to say, and I made some comments. If you have any questions, I am ready to answer it.
Gökhan, thank you very much, and thank you for covering such a wide variety of subjects and delivering to time. It's always appreciated. Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.
Our last speaker is Mr. Gerasimos Avlonitis, and thank you very much and coming on talking on market development.
Hello, everyone. First of all, let me thank Ian and Mr. Stambolis for the invitation, for being here present in this very interesting panel. What I'm going to tell you in a few minutes is what is the status of our projects at this time that are related to the dynamics of the gas market, but also which are our priorities in the wake of the new energy landscape. So, first of all, without taking too much time on who we are, I guess probably you are, it is well known to most of you, we are the Greek transmission system operator. We were established in 2007, so we are operating for 17 years now as an ownership unbundled, independent operator of the gas system. Our shareholders include some of the biggest TSOs in Europe, like Snam of Italy, Enagas of Spain, and Fluxys of Belgium. And also we have as a shareholder the Greek state, a minority percentage, and also the Damco Energy from the Kopelisos Group. What we do is to manage a high-quality network and state-of-the-art LNG facility. We have interconnections where the connecting tissue between different transmission systems in the region, but also between independently built merchant infrastructure. We have interconnections with Bulgarian system, with the Turkish system, with the Trans-Adriatic pipeline, a physical interconnection that cannot be used at the moment on firm capacity, but will be very soon be able with ICGB. And also we are connecting the Revithous LNG terminal, which is part of our system, the Alexandroupolis gas trade FSRU, and also we are working on connections with four more projects actually. One new interconnection with North Macedonia. Also, the gentleman from Serbia Gas pointed out the importance of such an interconnector because it can move gas from any terminal in Greece down to Hungary from a different route than the vertical corridor, possibly. So, and also we have possible connections with 3 more FSRUs in Greece that are in the state of development. Some of those pre-FID, some of those in a less advanced stage. Going back to what Kostas Ifneos also mentioned, and also Todora Georgieva from ICGB, we're indeed having a plan of 1.3 billion investment plan, which is approved by the regulator, and mostly related to increasing our exporting infrastructure through compression stations, duplication of pipelines, and all the necessary new additions to our system to achieve what I explained at the beginning, being the connecting tissue between different infrastructure and allowing gas to move whenever prices require. So I will not go into detail in all these projects. You'll have the presentation. It is well known. Talking about market dynamics, going back a little bit in 2023, we can see that we have something like 6.6 billion cubic meters of gas transported through our system. 20% of that was actually heading for exports to the southeastern Europe. In terms of LNG and the structure of the LNG imports, we can see USA taking the lead for 2023, immediately followed by the Russian LNG, which in fact I not wait for the discussion of the vertical corridor. It can move also through the vertical corridor when it will happen, as long as there's no administrative burden or prohibition. It is also Russian LNG that can move to any of the infrastructure that we're talking about. So, regarding the demand, and this is the picture you see for 2023, completely, well, significantly different picture in 2024. No exports whatsoever so far for the first 6 months of 2024. Why is that? Because cheap Russian gas has flooded the region, and we're importing fully Russian natural gas through existing long-term contracts, fully legally and through the commercial routes. Nothing strange about that. Which of course has also restricted the role of LNG. Much less deliveries of LNG in Greece. Of course, this is short-term view. Things change from year to year, and we are planning ahead with having all the capacity available to import or to export whenever it is necessary. Regarding demand, and since we were discussing a lot about industry, yes, we had not a demand destruction, as John mentioned. We had obviously a drastic reduction during the 2022 and 23, but we have seen some clear signs of recovery from 2024. Now, going to our priorities for the future, we are envisaging and we are working on an infrastructure in three different, that will cover three different needs. First of all, we have the methane-based infrastructure, natural gas now, which is progressively being mixed and substituted with biomethane to the extent there is the capacity in the country or imports, and to the extent that it is feasible, also with hydrogen. This is the core of our system, which we're working on maintaining and also expanding according to the market needs. A second stream of infrastructure that we are also working on is an infrastructure that will be carrying CO2 from the carbon capture installations towards the storage facilities or the usage facilities, depending on what eventually it will be the case. So we are working in building and transportation and storage to the extent possible, or liquefaction infrastructure for the CO2. And last but not least, we are working on developing also an infrastructure that either can be ready for hydrogen or will be dedicated, built from the beginning as a hydrogen infrastructure. So going to our key priorities very quickly, I will not go again talking about the vertical corridor. The former speakers have, I think, exhausted the issue. For us, it is a great way to see what the market can do, and most importantly, as Georgia Astodora also pointed out, if the market is not ready to take that decision and it is necessary, the state should step in, or the EU rather, should step in and support this initiative. Also, I have to say that the strong support from this initiative has been demonstrated already from the US government through Jeffrey Pyatt, the Deputy Secretary of State, because obviously it's of critical importance for several countries to reduce their dependence on Russian gas. Secondly, as I said, we have a 1.3 billion investment plan that it is aiming at increasing the export capacity of the country and connecting through firm capacity all the independent infrastructure. Regarding the hydrogen infrastructure, probably you have understand about you have heard about the hydrogen backbone concept that has been developed by most of the gas TSOs in Europe, and it is based on the fact that production potential for hydrogen or for transit of hydrogen that probably is produced outside Europe, it is on the periphery of the Central and Northern Europe, which is the demand center, and actually Germany. So the concept is that the development of several big highways of hydrogen that will be transmitting hydrogen to Central Europe, and especially Germany. One of those, if you can say under the number E here, is the southern backbone. We are already developing, along with Bulgarians, this part of this hydrogen backbone in Greece with a dedicated pipeline, which has actually this year received a PCI status from the European Commission. So it is a very big project for us and a very important development. Regarding what I said of the CCS hub, we are also participating in a PCI project which involves a depleted an active gas field in Greece that it is going to be converted to a CO2 storage facility in the future, the Prinos field, which is actually the CO2 pipelines and liquefaction infrastructure was also included. It was another project that had awarded the PCI status, and we are very, very keen on going ahead with that. And finally, regarding, as I said, the methane infrastructure, we envisage that gradually natural gas will be substituted by biomethane. So in order to speed up this process, we are working on a pilot project with biomethane producers that will be actually probably the first biomethane production in Greece. And also we're working actively in developing, in facilitating, contributing to the development of the regulatory framework for biomethane. So this was a really quick overview of what are the projects of interest to us and our priorities. Thank you very much. Happy to answer any questions.
Gerasimus, thank you very much, not least because you've almost laid the way with your reference to crops for the final session that we're going to be doing today on alternative fuels. So can I thank the panel very much? We are running half an hour late, so I don't think there's going to be time for anything. I've got from Costas. Right.
Sorry, but there is a very important question to Milan. Milan, you showed this vertical pipeline which you are developing at various stages, North Macedonia to Serbia and perhaps further north. My question is, are there any plans to connect this to the pipeline which is currently under construction between Greece and Skopje?
This one works. Yes, actually, we are not speaking about the new pipeline because, as I mentioned before, there is an existing one which goes, and its aim was to provide supply from Hungary south to Serbia. So actually, this pipeline is old and definitely with the insufficient capacity. So the idea is to, on the same route, to build a new one capable to carry out all needed and necessary volumes and to provide the capacity needed to fully integrate the potential flows from south to north. Basic inputs to this pipeline, as I mentioned, are recently operated interconnector Bulgaria-Serbia, and the second one is North Macedonia-Serbia. So actually, the both pipelines are in a full compliance of actually the penetration and integration of the southern corridor, not only to the region of Balkans, but to the route of the supply from south to north.
I think we're going to have to end it because I know we've got another panel and we're half an hour late anyway. So can I thank the panel very, very much indeed for a very stimulating session, not least on the importance of the Vertical Corridor Initiative. Thank you.